Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Hink, and I have finished watching Maniac.
And I am Michael Damiani, and I have also finished watching Maniac.
This is your final warning, because spoiler mode is now activated.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Spoiler Mode. We had debated whether or not to do one, because we had planned on doing a spoiler mode on Maniac before finishing it, and then we finished it, and now we were like, is it worth it?
Yeah, I think I was in the high point. I was only like 2 or 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
I was feeling pretty
Me too.
good, and we're like, we should just do this.
Yeah, let's just do it, because I think it'll be interesting, if nothing else. I mean, as you can tell from the things we just said, I didn't dislike Maniac. I just was a little disappointed because I thought it didn't really go there. It didn't really challenge me or say or do anything. I was expecting, especially given the director and given the subject material, I thought it would really go Charlie Kaufman, wacky, zany, crazy. But really, if you boil it down, Maniac is a pretty straight-ahead story.
Yeah, the overall plot, I think, kind of played to everyone's expectations. That part doesn't deviate at all.
Yeah.
The resolution is what you expect, and even the crazy zany parts when they're taking the experimental drugs and they're going into each other's minds and really like dealing with their traumas in their own way. The first 2, I felt like, okay, maybe this is going to go somewhere crazy. This is just like the baseline ones. And it never really went anywhere that was too shocking, and also kind of came off more as silly. It got sillier as it progressed further along to me.
Yeah.
I felt like they were trying to go for this comedic effect. And to me, it never really felt funny like that. It just kind of came off as awkward.
Yeah, it didn't feel like super awkward to me, but it definitely had that weird kind of vibe where you're like, okay, clearly like Snorri is supposed to be silly and weird. He's the sort of Icelandic they make there's a funny line where he's like, that's why my accent is so strange, because my father was Icelandic and my mother was Swedish or whatever. And like, which to me I read as a meta joke of like, what the hell voice are you doing, Jonah Hill? And they were aware of it, so I think that kind of stuff was funny. But yeah, definitely the tone is interesting. It never like bothered me necessarily, but
yeah, I guess maybe awkward isn't the best word to describe it. It just kind of like weird, but not in the weird the good weird where I was hoping to get like really crazy and insane,
right.
And more of the kind of expected weird that this is just goofy, I guess. Which is a stark contrast. So I felt the real world, where it starts off in the first episode. You get this setting for this. Everything is like derived from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Even though it's not set in the 80s. That was
like
a really
retro future.
Yeah. It was like basically if Back to the Future 2's version of the future came true, sort of.
And it's like sort of an Americanized or a Japanified America sort of vibe. It's like a combination of American culture and Japanese culture, which is cool. Like his apartment is a very Japanese kind of apartment.
Everything's very compact.
Yeah.
Like still 4:3 TVs.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about like the concept in the world, like the ad buddy things are
so good.
You have to have this. You don't know, this person comes along with you and basically in person reads you ads and stuff and like tries to get you to sign up for things, and it's how you pay for things if you don't have if you don't have the money to do it. So I was
it's basically Google AdSense but in real life.
Yeah, person has to do it.
It's very cool.
You can pay for like rent-a-buddies as well.
Oh yeah, what do they call them? It's like whatever.
It's like it was FF
something
or
pal,
something.
Yeah, something
pal. But they have to like get into the role and stuff. But you also see like they're also people. Like they can't do a million different roles, so like, they'll come off as unbelievable. Like, all right, you're not doing it well and stuff. But it was just a weird, interesting take to see another version of the future based on that, and I felt drawn into that.
Yeah, I loved the set design, the character design, the characterizations of most of the characters. I really thought was cool. Mandel Ray I thought was very interesting. His like manic, just kind of like always on the edge of having a breakdown sort of energy was really cool. I thought that Dr. What's her name? Azumi, yeah. What was her last name? I can't remember.
Azumi Fujita.
Fujita, yeah, I knew it started with an F. She was very cool because she's very cool and collected, but like a broiling pot of kind of like repressed anger too. And then of course Sally Field's character, this sort of like pop psychologist.
Yes.
I liked all the characters. I thought all of that stuff was really cool. And the world itself was very cool. It's interesting to me that, sort of like along the lines of what you were saying, it's sort of the opposite of a lot of other narratives like this, where the real world, quote unquote, of the fiction is more interesting than the fanciful the flights of fancy, because the flights of fancy felt mundane by comparison, because they created this super cool reality where this retro future with all these really interesting characters, and then the little vignettes, like episodes, the whole middle of the show is like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 vignettes, and those were less interesting to me than the actual plot. I was like, just get back to the real world. Like, these are just we're just spinning our gears for no reason here.
I agree with that. I also felt there would be a little bit more reflection time. They kind of like hurry it along when they come back and like, well, what did you think? What did you interpret your dream? They spend more of it on the A-pill part of the experiment, and then they don't really come back to it as much. I mean, they pull Annie out later to like talk to her about what she went through, but it felt like it indulged more in the flights of fancy, in the A and B pill like reality or dream sequences.
And I will say the A pill I liked, because it was more in their actual reality. You know, it was just a flashback basically,
and not enough like self-reflection, like analysis, discussion about like what was really going on there. And I think just got caught up too much in the fantasy elements.
Yeah, I think this is an appropriate time maybe to bring this in, because Huber actually shared this article with me by Collider called Cary Fukunaga, Maniac, and How Netflix Algorithm is Becoming Entertainment Skynet.
Jeez.
So, I mean, who knows? Take it with a grain of salt. But this quote from the director, I read this before seeing the thing, but it sort of spooked me a little bit. It's sort of a block quote, so bear with me here, but it says, quote, "Because Netflix is a data company, they know exactly how their viewers watch things. So they can look at something you're writing and say, we know based on our data that if you do this, we will lose this many viewers. So it's a different kind of note-giving. It's not like, let's discuss this and maybe I'm going to win. The algorithm's argument is going to win at the end of the day. So the question is, do we want to make a creative decision at the risk of losing people? There was one episode we wrote that was just layer upon layer peeled back and then reversed again, which was a lot of fun to write and think of executing, but like halfway through the season, we're just losing a bunch of people on that kind of binging momentum. That's probably not a good move, So it's a decision that was made 100% based on audience participation. Just to go all the way with the like conspiracy theory nuthouse read of that quote, it is a little freaky to think of a company, because Netflix is they're a data company almost more than they are a creative company. Like their notes are given based on metrics, based on like the creative stuff that they want is based on numbers and popularity to a certain extent. I'm not speaking gospel
totally
here,
believe
but
you.
like,
yeah.
And so like to think of a show like this, which in theory on paper should be very much like, Charlie Kaufman's, or not Kaufman, but whatever, adaptation, like that movie, where it's like totally unhinged, off the wall, like go wherever you want. But to think of something like this being moored down by something as, just straight ahead as metrics and this data is kind of freaky creatively, kind of scary to think about. And I wonder, I mean, obviously we don't know, but I wonder how much of this show was kind of predicated by just that raw data, because it sort of feels that way. It sort of feels like it was afraid to challenge anyone actually, because like it was just sort of a story that didn't have any risks. I don't know.
I mean, it would it would be great if they could do a postmortem, or if they get they go to some convention or something. Hey, Maniac 2, and fans ask questions. So can you tell us more about this and more like maybe we get some actual like evidence or quotes that said, the data showed this, we did that. That'd be like really interesting to see.
Yeah.
But it's really a scary thought to think that the weight that Netflix carries with show programming, I think more than like movie, but it's definitely streaming web series, programming, miniseries, stuff like that. How much they could like start dictating and might be imitated by other companies, like shows by data.
Yeah.
Because a lot of other entertainment-based industries have kind of like gone that way. Like I'm thinking of the example of like Moneyball in baseball. There was the point where these teams had invested more in data and stats than scouts and stuff. They're like, no, we're just going to go by the numbers, and we're just going to rely on data and stuff. And they came winning and stuff. It'd be scary if like something as artistic, is like making like movies and television shows boils down to that.
Right.
Like I really hope. I mean, I'm sure there can be some success in that, but I also think that there's always going to be outliers that show this didn't fit any of our data. Yet it's a huge success,
right? And I mean,
yeah,
Hollywood has shown repeatedly that happens, because that's how you get the next big thing, is that someone takes a risk, it happens, it blows up huge, and then is imitated for 40 years. Like, that's just like how this works. But part of me almost wants to see, like, if computer technology gets to the point where a computer could write, animate, and produce an entire CG animated movie by itself just based on raw data, I would watch the hell out of that just to see what
they could make that
insanity
such a cool event. They could be
like
newcomer director, producer, whatever, and like no one's met them yet.
Yeah,
and then like
Anitron 4000,
and they like unveil the series, and I was like, "This is great." And then they have like a press meet and greet, and like it's just like
it's a laptop.
Yeah, they use the laptop. It's like meet here, and everyone's like, "Whoa!"
It's like what? Oh man, I want to. Part of me kind of wants us to live in that sort of nightmare reality.
Part of me wants us to be like, this, get a laugh on this is a new Netflix show. This idea. They're going to be like, let's make a show about what we're doing in TV shows.
Season 5 of Black Mirror. Here it comes.
Isn't that going to be Choose Your Own Adventure? Sorry.
They're going to do an interactive thing,
that's the next.
Which Netflix has been wanting to do for a long time. I think they're doing it to some extent with their children's programming. I might be wrong on that, but I know they've definitely wanted to do that for a while. But, back to Maniac, though. Like, part of me wonders, because the stuff did feel, I could feel an energy in it that wanted to be super avant-garde and super weird and challenging, because we were talking about briefly before, like the way it handles mental health, I do think is something that it largely handles. I think Jonah Hill's portrayal of that kind of schizophrenia, sort of borderline stuff. I don't know if they ever specifically say. They say he had a blip, like a schizophrenic blip. So I don't know if he's been fully diagnosed, and like I think a lot of it is his worry that he does have this and he can't trust himself, But I think that they portrayed that in an interesting way. I think that Jonah Hill really did a good job of portraying that. The show, I don't know if it gave it enough time or gave it. How do you feel that? Do you think it gave it its due diligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think I liked maybe Jonah Hill's journey a little bit more of the two main characters between him and Andy.
Sure.
I did like how at the beginning they like it's hey, you had an episode a few years ago, and the father basically goes, just only question that matters. Can you tell what's real or not? And Jonah Hill's like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it's like, oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And seeing him, like, he can't hold down a job. He's trying to be independent because he clearly is traumatized and doesn't want to be around his family. Like, like something about him is upsetting. You find out more as you go along. Like, he knows the truth of what his brother really did. He's just like, I can't stand for it. He's a good person deep down. He is a good person. And he can't stand. He's torn between loyalty and doing the right thing. And I think, as you said, he might be doing a lot of this to himself.
Right.
And it comes off as like,
fear,
maybe
yeah.
I'm schizophrenic and stuff, but like, I think it's just all the pressure of like his, like what's going on around him and dealing with like his shortcomings and failures and just projecting that and seeing like, even when he buys into this thing that like an alternate version of his brother is like trying, like he's on a mission. It's never clear what this mission is, but it's important. You better follow through it. And I loved how initially he thinks that's like who Annie is.
Right.
He plays off that, but he actually forms a real bond with her through all their experiences. But at the end, he comes back to that same question.
Right.
He can't. That biggest hurdle for him is this real or not? Am I going to do what I've done every single time? Just like,
Well, I mean, I was just going to reiterate. Yeah, like when he says to the psychiatrist in the last episode, like option A, none of this was real.
Yeah.
She's not real. That company's not real. You know. And then option B, I don't recall, is like it just falls apart, you know. But yeah, and I think I didn't mean to like cut you off. Were you?
No, like that was good. Like I actually forgot about that part.
Yeah,
and like that specific thing, and that was really good. It's that it goes with what I was discussing earlier. He definitely is doing a lot of this to himself, and that is like the climax of like him trying to break through his self-inflicted, like, you know, I don't know if I'd call it like schizophrenia just yet. I think a lot of it is him doing it to himself. And it was just like that was like kind of like hard to see. It's like, man, that sucks. How he shuts down after he comes out of the B pill simulation, and Annie's like had her catharsis, and she's just ready to like, Owen, I need you in my life, and he's like, I can't, like I might have like gotten to the end of mine, because I think, as I interpret it, the final scene, the final sequence of the B pill simulation was he was trying to keep everyone alive with the messing with the cords and stuff with his fake brother, because Greta, Gertrude, whatever her name was going insane.
Yeah.
Gertie was going insane and was gonna like McMurphy everybody.
Yeah.
Because she just couldn't deal with her. Like the computer has grief as well, which is amazing. Yeah. And he was trying to keep them all alive. I think was like the text, the dialogue, if I remember it right. So he really doesn't come to he doesn't go through his catharsis like everyone else does. And he comes out and he's just like, yeah, like I still messed up and stuff. You know?
I mean, it's an interesting thing because his catharsis has to happen in reality, because it doesn't happen until, as I think everyone probably saw coming, he doesn't lie for his brother. And that's actually something I kind of wanted to talk about. Is I think that's sort of one of the, and again, I want to reiterate, I liked Maniac. I was just a little disappointed because I wanted it to be challenged a little more, you know. And I think that we're being critical because I do think that these are people operating at their full powers, you know, masters of their craft by and large. But like, I think that, like, because you knew from the word go, like, okay, this guy's not gonna lie for his brother, and like, you assume Annie's going to confront the death of her sister, move through that, move forward. And all of that comes to pass. And the weird thing is, with Jonah Hill's character, Owen, the computer stuff, the ABC, and like doing the Rubik's Cube, there's like this Rubik's Cube motif throughout that doesn't, I don't think, really pay off, because this, like, the pattern and the mission thing, it's never fully, they never drew it out enough for it to pay off at the end. Like him doing the Rubik's Cube at the end of C to kind of, to do what? Like, it didn't, I think, fully specify how I know that he's like, keeping the computer from falling apart.
Yeah,
but it's not really specified, and it's like weird. It's like, okay, it's just like suspension of disbelief. It's relying on me just going like, okay, sure, him doing this will fix the computer somehow. But like in reality, the computer would have had to put that there, which I guess is feasible. The computer put in a mechanism for itself to be healed by someone else because it does want to be healed because it has a personality. But so I guess there's that take. But I don't know. It just, everything felt kind of just, it, in a thing that's supposed to go off the wall and be weird. And I mean, maybe that's just, maybe the fault is with us, the viewer, that was our assumption. But like, it felt like it just kind of went straight ahead, was sort of predictable in a weird way. And a lot of the things for his, because like you said, as a character, his catharsis doesn't happen. And the ABC process doesn't seem to have an impact on him really at all, aside from just maybe giving him that little push he needed to have the courage to confront his family. I think that was probably what the simulation did for him, but it didn't heal him.
Yeah, and
which is fine.
Yeah, because I think let's go with that real quick. The notion that this whole project is based on the idea that they can cure human suffering, needless human emotional suffering. That is what Dr. Mantle-Ray and Dr. Robert Muramoto, the one who passes away and
dies,
from recreational drug use,
which
is
theoretical overdose. The line that Azumi says after he dies is so intense, where she just says, "Do you think that?" I believe it's her, she who says that, but she says, "Do you think that someone who dies of an overdose?" Committed suicide?
Yeah.
I was just like, whoa,
yeah.
That's super intense.
Yeah, that was a little intense. But I think it was...
And it just shows how, like, hard-ass she is, like, kind of as a person.
Oh, yeah, like, she has a great moment when she, like, stands up to Mantle-Ray's mother.
That little triumvirate I really liked. There's so much good stuff in this show, dude.
Yeah, just a lot of Sally Field's lines, I think, were like pretty good, because it's like, I think a lot of people could relate to that, and some people can relate to that about, mother's expectations, like mother's always right and stuff, like you can like fight stuff, but like the point about, I forget the exact situation, but Mantle-Ray is trying to do something, and then her mother points out, you were trying to, like, that, obviously you were trying to do this, it's what I told you would happen.
Right.
It's like, and he's just like, and I was like, right before he gets his like
psychosomatic blindness.
Yeah, I was like, that part was a little like sudden and weird.
Apparently that happens. It happens in another book I'm reading right now, actually, to a character.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole notion of drugs that can like just do this for you. I mean, I'm not trying to like downplay it. Obviously, drugs and like medicine can definitely help people.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I think this was trying to be like a cure-all for everything.
Right.
And I think it's not as simple as that. And I think...
Right. Well, and I think that the show is saying that. It's like there is no cure-all.
Which is a really, like, I think is a really good, strong message to send. I think it got a little too hammy and cheesy with the resolution of Owen's story, because Annie shows up, breaks him out, but like they have a conversation, and it's like basically the most cliched stuff, like, everyone's messed up.
Right.
I'm your friend. That's why I came. And
and they set up that he's worried that she doesn't even exist, but then when she comes there, he's acting like that kind of, but I feel like they don't confront it necessarily. And then they definitely do. The whole ending felt like an homage to The Graduate, kind of.
Oh,
like they straight up
totally
do that shot.
It is.
They might be flipped, like he might be on the side that she was on, but like whatever. It's like straight up that shot with like the joy, the elation of having broken out and doing the thing is hit by the reality of what you've done, the adult situation that you find yourself in. Like they're straight up doing that, but it. Like I was fine with it, whatever. I don't know how else they would have really ended it necessarily, unless they did a Brazil where you're just like, she is fake, but like that would be, or like he just imagined all that. But I don't. The end of the show is pretty cut and dried, except at the end you see the dog that was missing and that she had been looking for.
Oh, yeah, at the beginning, yeah.
And then the other thing is that, was it the little pooper scooper robot, or I can't remember the other.
There's the poop, the poop scoop robot and
the dog for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, because that's one quick thing I want to say. Like you reminded me of something, like the elements in the real world. Because in the first episode, you see a lot of stuff. You don't realize if it's going to be important enough. You see like the security officer outside of like Owen's like hotel or like high rise building. She's going through the trash and she sees a Don Quixote book, which will like basically it's like almost like Wizard of Ozzy. Like I've seen these people and I'm seeing these like objects, and then when I go into my dream, they're all there. You were there. You were there. Right. I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, like I guess like it didn't, like the comparison to Graduate I felt better to me. Like I was like kind of happier they did that. Whereas like when the beginning stuff with the Wizard of Ozzy like stuff, at least that's how I took it, was just, oh no, I've seen it, but I guess at the same time I got to reconcile that like that's what a lot of people do when you dream or when you go through stuff. You internalize, you bring familiar things that you see into your fantasies and imagination.
I think that was kind of an interesting thing because Jonah Hill, Owen's character, Owen doesn't believe after the A pill that they were actually in each other's minds. Like she's like, you were there as you, that was you. He's like, no, I was just imagining you because I'm like obsessive. Like this is what I do. And I liked that. I thought that was a cool kind of moment that he didn't believe it. And yeah, people, the ambiguity of the ending where the dog that she was looking for and the other thing, I read that as the shadows of your past are always following you. Like that was my read, is like it's always going to be there. They have to deal with these things. Some people read it as, oh, was all this a dream? And I don't think so. Like, or like, was all this fictional, or are we still in some kind of fake reality? But I don't think that's the case. I think it's more metaphorical of just, hey, we're setting off on this new adventure together, but your past is always your past. That kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but
I don't really see how they're still in a fictional thing because Annie did give in and accepted like the offer to stay in like the optimal dream. Basically on the path to being a McMurphy.
Yeah.
And then she denies it, she rejects it, and then she wants the.
I loved that moment where when she says goodbye to her sister, and then the computer kind of has her moment too, has her kind of catharsis as well, which is good. Yeah,
like there are definitely good parts of this. I want to say like of all the fantasy sequences, the where he's, what's his name, Bruce Marino. It's like Dan Marino, like he's wearing like a Marino jersey and looks almost like a Dolphins, like a famous quarterback.
Is that when he had the teeth? The gold teeth, or
whatever? Oh no, the first fantasy where they're trying to rescue the lemur. I'm just going through all of them because I want to like see like how much I really liked each one of those. Trying to save the lemur from like the furriers and stuff. It was a little, and like the wildlife and like life or rescue group.
Yeah, that was funny.
And they have a shootout. I was like, wait, what?
The repeated line of like, but it's kind of the same thing authority wise. Like, are you a cop?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm fishing wildlife. But authority-wise, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, seeing that, the weird or like con artists, like thieves at a seance. I was like, okay, a little weird. The high fantasy elf thing was like the worst.
Didn't land for me.
I was like, no. The Snorri stuff was like.
I thought Snorri was. I liked it just because it was so weird. Like, I liked it. It was.
I was
silly.
not expecting something like that. I'll definitely give it that. The mobster thing was just too. Like I don't know. Like him being an
informant or
and stuff, and then they blame his brother, and then you were a genius, like you led us to them. It's like, and
then the like fake brother shit. The mobster one was like maybe my favorite of the one, and Snorri I thought was really funny. But the ultimate thing though is like their flashbacks of what actually happened, like him at the party jumping off the roof, and like her and her sister in the car and stuff. That, to me, was the most dynamic stuff because it was grounded in that cool world that they made. And these vignettes sort of, to me, they didn't do what they needed to do for me in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, I understand that they're metaphorically working through their issues, and, like, that's what's happening. But the pacing and stuff, it sort of just felt like kind of treading water for a couple of them.
I can see that. I think for me, going off that, I think I might have just found most of, even the high-end fantasy one, I might have found it mostly entertaining to watch. It was definitely entertaining to watch those, as you said, vignettes. But I think from a show with this premise, I just don't think it delivered on the intellectual level enough.
Right.
I think there's an expectation that it's going to make you think a little bit more than your usual show, and it was more of just, no, I'm having a good time watching this, but I didn't really do a lot. Yeah, it didn't. I don't think it accomplished its like high goal.
It's weird to me because I sort of have had that feeling about a lot of like the Netflix series, like the Marvel series and stuff, where I think they are too slow. They don't really get where they need to go fast enough, and like the binge mentality sort of lends itself to that kind of weird pacing. Even Stranger Things, I think, is like a couple episodes longer than it needs to be often. And
season 2 was
for sure.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I don't go gaga for them. And it's weird because if that's the product, then again, I don't know how much of that is speculative or not, but I mean, it was from the director's own mouth. But if it is the product of this algorithmic sort of note-giving and thinking process, I do wonder how much of that is ingrained in that process of showmaking. But then I think about Black Mirror, which is challenging and scary and intelligent a lot of the time. Like, sure, there have been some duds maybe, but like by and large, Black Mirror isn't pulling its punches. It's not dumbing it down, really. It's not going for the algorithm. Like, the algorithm is like basically just numerical lowest common denominator, right? And it's like, why then would a show like this that should kind of be Black Mirror level of challenging to its viewer, like, not antagonistic necessarily, they're not Michael Haneke, but like, you know, certainly challenging. Like, we've seen a huge success with Black Mirror.
Yeah, I think, but also, I think, I don't know if it matters enough or matters to this argument, but also just to point out the obvious, Black Mirror also is not, except for like the last episode, pays like little nods to each of the previous ones.
Yeah.
There is no overarching narrative arc.
Right.
It's like Twilight Zone.
They're all linked, but yeah, not.
Yeah, and I think sometimes maybe there's a freedom you can enjoy with that, or maybe Netflix use that as different. Like this, our algorithms show that like not everyone's gonna watch every episode of a season of Black Mirror, but they will watch ones that are recommended. So let them go wild because we need their strongest episodes to like get traction, and that's what's more important to us, is that getting a few episodes talked about with that. Where something like where it's an overarching story like Maniac, people aren't just gonna jump in and watch. I'm gonna watch episode 2 and 4 because people said they're really good.
Right,
like,
right.
You gotta watch from start to finish. So I think it's a different set of challenges.
That's a really good point, and I think that Black Mirror was an extant quantity coming in, like it already existed, and Charlie Booker, is like this creator behind it that already had an established fan base, ravenous fan base going into this, so they were buying him and his brand, you know. Whereas this is, if I understand correctly, Netflix was sure like the director had the reins probably more or less, well, as dictated by the algorithm possibly, but like it's their own product. You know what I mean? So like Black Mirror, sure they resurrected it or whatever, but it's not a Netflix baby.
Yeah, that's.
Whereas all the Netflix babies, like Stranger Things, Marvel, Netflix series, and this, they are playing by the numbers to a certain extent.
Yeah, I feel like maybe one of the things I am noticing is I think maybe their algorithm is showing that like indulgence is a thing that the average person likes, and that is they want you. That's like why some of these feel like they run too long, and it'll still be a common criticism. But then you'll get people like, man, when's like when's Stranger Things coming back? When's like Daredevil season 3? Like, I think they hook people with that. And while you might initially complain about it, I think maybe on some level for some of their consumers, then deep down in their brains, on a subconscious level, they're like, no, you're like addicted to this. Like, you like this. You want like this to go on. And I guess their data is backing that up, that they go an extra episode. But I think we've seen, I'm not sure if it's true, but I feel like some of the season 2s and 3s that they've gone on have kind of like adjusted based on that. Like, maybe we'll cut one episode here. Stranger Things, the thing added like that extra episode where it's like, oh, did we really need that? Whereas I think the series was called Dark, the time travel one, the German one,
which I watched. And I enjoyed.
I like really liked that one. I didn't think that went on too long. I don't know where to go with the.
I didn't know it wasn't a limited series.
Yeah,
Dark. So I was like,
same.
And like the last episode, I was like, wow, how are they going to tie all this together? And then I was like, oh, they're just not.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
But that's the thing. I think it was really good. A really strong season.
I like
1.
Dark. Yeah,
I'm worried about like what they're going to go with the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you either have one problem or the other here, but
I'm bad at faces. Did you have? I found it so hard to tell who was who in Dark.
There was 1 or 2 characters I kept confusing.
Yeah,
but I think by like the episode 3 or 4, like I wasn't having
by
any
and large,
problems with that. Yeah. Also, don't watch that in English. Watch it in German with the English.
Yeah,
the lip syncing is
default,
so weird.
Yeah, the default on Netflix in America is the English version of Dark. I watched it for like maybe 40 seconds, and I was like, nope. And I speak a tiny bit of German, but
this isn't a natively English show, is it?
No.
I was like, nope, we're fixing that.
It's vastly superior in its original German.
Calling this like I think is it a limited series, or are they calling it a mini series?
I believe they called it limited series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they come back to this concept, it'd probably be like True Detective, like new characters and stuff.
I would wonder, yeah, because like that's the thing. I loved this world. I really liked the way this was shot. The way it was, the way it looked was really good. The color correction was great. The vibes were really good. The music was cool. All the characters, the costume design was fantastic.
Very good. A lot of several nods. I just want to say the common room area of Neberdeen was like the Nostromo alien common
very
room.
Nostromo.
Hi, someone like Alien.
They've definitely seen Alien, yeah, for sure. Like, that whole 80s retro
the
future.
Maniac logo is the IBM logo from the 80s. Yeah.
Like I there's so many things in this I really loved, which makes kind of the shortcomings just more glaring. You know what I mean? It's like you criticize the things that you like or that you see a huge potential in, I think, more. At least I do. Like the things that I think almost attain greatness, I'm like, oh man, just if not for these few things, like this could have been so good. And I do think Maniac is really good. I think that it has so many things that are worth watching. It's just kind of a bummer that, and I mean, like, I don't know, it's probably just easy to blame, like, oh, Skynet, the algorithm, tra-la-la, like, that's an easy scapegoat, you know, but I wonder how much of that is true. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my final thoughts are just basically, I kind of hope if they will bring it back for season 2, but it's gonna be new characters, I do hope it gets a second chance.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, like, it's like, I think, if you're not in by episode 2, I think you probably won't get into it.
Yeah, because those are the best episodes.
Yeah, but I do see like a lot of like potential there, and like conceptually, it's very solid and sound. I just think if they needed to do this by the numbers, as that article suggested, maybe if it's successful enough, they're like, all right, you get a little bit more leeway. We still suggest you do this, but take a little bit more, like do more of what you want in this one. We'll see how it goes. Now you've proven yourselves.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that, because if that's what held it back, that's a little unfortunate. But it's not like it's bad. It's,
right.
It's enjoyable.
And like the world is 80 infinity% better with Netflix and with like them making things like Maniac. Like the world is better with Maniac in it than without like things like this happening. Like I would even argue, like, sure, Cloverfield Paradox was really bad.
Oh yeah,
but I'm like very happy that they did that. That they made it. That it exists.
Otherwise,
like I am in support of Netflix, kind of just trying all these crazy things, because like sometimes they're going to be amazing, and I think that that's very worth it and very worthwhile. And they're like, so many things in this were so phenomenal that I think I'm happy that it exists.
It's great,
and I want more things like it.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Maniac.
Yeah. I hope you've seen it before you watch this, because best advice I could have given you was go into this without reading anything about it. Just going blind. Best experience you could do for this. Best potential.
And just kind of like, we're doing a spoiler mode about it, so we had to think about it kind of on a critical level. But I definitely think just for a breezy, like, what is it, 10 episodes?
Yeah, 10 episodes.
Like, for a breezy 10 episodes, some of which are 27 minutes long, like, it was worth it. Like, I had fun watching it. It was a fun time. I enjoyed it. And, like, if we didn't have to, like, do a video, well, we don't have to, but if we didn't do this video where we were critical about it, I would have been pleased with, like, I didn't feel like my time was stolen from me. Like, I was like, okay, sure, it was great. Or it was, like, fine. And then I don't think about it anymore. But I wasn't like mad at it, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment.
Whereas like Daredevil, I was like, how dare you?
I also would suggest don't binge watch it. I watched it like probably about one episode a night. I didn't like, maybe I think towards when we decided we were gonna do this, I did like do 2 episodes.
I think
at a
I watched
time.
it in 2 or 3 sittings.
Yeah, like I would say, just don't marathon it through the beginning to end unless you're really into it. If you're really into it, do what you want. But I felt like this one, it worked better for me not trying to watch it all in one sitting.
Sure.
Also, it didn't. Like, I was very intrigued. It didn't grab me as much as like something like Stranger Things, where the first time I watched Stranger Things, I just could not stop. I was like, all right, I'm not going to bed. 4 a.m. Started like in the like early evening, 4 a.m. next morning. I'm like, all right, that was really good. Where's season 2?
There are definitely some of those shows where I have to intentionally not watch them too close to bedtime because my mind will still be rolling, and I'm like, I need to just watch more, Yeah. This wasn't one of those. I could just kind of put it down. But yeah, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other thoughts that you have?
No, that's it. I think the actors did. Just want to like, wrap it up again, saying actors I thought did a really good job.
Yeah.
I really like the actors.
Some of the accents were hilarious, but whatever.
That I think Emma Stone did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And
her fantasy accent, I wasn't sure if I was.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm not the best at judging accents.
Yeah, I'm not.
But,
I'm not an expert.
I liked her delivery.
Yeah,
and
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, Manta Ray and Azumi Fujita, like, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Spoiler Mode, discussing Maniac. As you know, if you watch this, Spoiler Mode is exclusive to patrons. But yeah, thank you very much for being a patron and for watching and joining us here. Thank you, Damiani.
You're welcome.
And we will see you again soon on Spoiler Mode.